in the FA Cup in your playing career, and these players as well have a chance to make a name for themselves.
Yeah, they do. And they can, there's no doubt about that. We're up against an opposition that have had fantastic success recently. They've done an unbelievable job getting promoted. Rob's been fantastic in that, in galvanising that club and getting those players to that level. And so it's a tough opposition. We played them in pre-season and it was a tight game, and I'd expect them to be as resilient and competitive again. But I've reiterated over the last few weeks, we've got to pretty much concentrate on ourselves and what we can do and how we can play well. And if we do that, we know that we are a decent side. It's just consistency.
And as you say, just one division between the two clubs and the element of a local derby. It's a bit of a leveller, isn't it?
It is, but it's a good leveller. It's a good leveller for the fans. I think that's what the fans want to see, isn't it? They want to see local derbies. They want to see rivalries. We want the ground full. We know how important the fans are to this football club, and I certainly do, having seen the atmosphere over the years as a player and as a coach at different clubs. It's been a great place to be. So we want those fans back in, and we want that atmosphere back. It's going to take a lot of hard work, but in this competition alone, away from the league, this is one competition where we can do that if we go on a successful run. So that's definitely the aim.
And it does feel like the FA Cup is Yeovil's competition. They've got so much history in it, particularly as a non-league club. And of course, they set a record last year in their run to play Bournemouth in the third round. How great would that be, especially with some of the tough results that have been, just as a bit of a distraction and something to get the fans really excited about?
Well, it sure would. It's something that the fans look forward to, isn't it? It's something that they want to see. Really good teams come to Hewish Park. They want to see, I suppose, the classic third round draw of Man United. I've played in those games as a player, and there's no better feeling. There's no better feeling to know that excitement's building. The week leading up to those games is superb. As I say, the stadium's packed to capacity. That's what we want to see. But let's get the first hurdle done, and that's a tough one. No doubt in my mind, it's a tough one, and we're taking it as we would any game each week in the National League, which, as we know, are hugely competitive. And
like you say, you played Taunton in pre-season. They had a tough result at the weekend, but what are you expecting from them?
Yeah, they did, but I also saw them against Bath City, and Bath are obviously a very capable side, and I saw a very tightly contested game which ended in a draw, but Taunton were winning for long periods of the game, conceded in the last sort of throws of the game. So we know that we're facing a well-organised, well-drilled team that'll be absolutely bang up for this game because of the sort of magnitude of it being a local derby, as it were. And they played against a very good Ebbsfleet side, flying high in their division. So, yeah, I wouldn't take that 5-0 into account. I'd say that we're facing a tough opposition that we need to be absolutely 100% up for.
You have got a player, of course, who knows Taunton Town well, Will Bewes. He was played in that pre-season friendly, in fact, and he had a great game, I seem to remember. I imagine he'll be hoping that maybe he's going to muscle his way into the squad.
Yeah, didn't he just have a great season there? Well thought of, and I'm sure myself and Rob will have a little joke about me nicking him, but he came here to be competitive with the number one jersey, and that's what he is. It might seem that he hasn't been close, but it's like that as a keeper, isn't it? It's not like those outfield positions where there's a lot of rotation. There has to be, but with a keeper, sometimes you will have long periods where you are not in that starting lineup, and sometimes not in the squad because of the format of the subs. What I would say is that the lad can't do any more in training. What a fantastic attitude. Been absolutely brilliant with the players and the staff, and I couldn't speak highly enough of him. So yeah, it's another player we're very lucky to have within our ranks.
We've spoken about it a few times, but you do get 7 subs, of course, in the FA Cup. That must be good for those players to be able to at least be included on the bench.
Yeah, it is. It's always difficult picking the bench because you see a group of players that are working the socks off all week and they want something at the end of that week. So it's always very, very difficult to choose. A lot more difficult when I started with 3 subs. I mean, that's crazy, that, isn't it? And I think you can have 11, can't you, for an international? I mean, what's all that about? But 7's better. It gives a couple of players the opportunity to perhaps get onto the pitch and show what they're capable of.
And you've got a number of loanees in your squad. Are they all able to play in this game? Are the parent clubs allowing them to?
Yeah, there's a couple of conversations to be had with a couple of those players before the weekend's out. One on the potential of him being able to play, and another with a potential return. But I can't comment on it at the moment until I've spoken to the managers involved.
And on availability of your squad, of course, Jamie Record's been out for a couple of weeks now, and Lawson Diath sort of went off struggling. Are any of those two going to be back ready for the FA Cup game?
Again, touch and go. I wouldn't want to comment at the moment. I think every 24 hours is vital for both of those players, so won't know until later today.
And you've got Matt Worthington available, despite the fact that he's got his 5th booking. That will have to be served next week. That's a big boost, isn't it? Especially if you are going to be missing Lawson Diath in that middle of the park area. Yeah,
definitely. I think if you're a competitive player, having that 5 booking suspension, I know we talk about discipline, but if you're, as I call, an on-the-edge player, unless they're 5 bookings for dissent, which is unacceptable, you're going to run the risk of being late in challenges and getting booked, especially in today's game where, a few years ago even a tackle might have not warranted a yellow. So I do have some sympathy, but yeah, discipline has to be a key factor, and he will be a loss because he's, as you've seen, he's a lad that wears his heart on his sleeve, playing for the club. The club means a lot to him. And without a shadow of a doubt, it's a big loss. But again, it gives someone the opportunity to step into that slot and do well.
And it's the last game of Jimmy Touré's suspension as well. Do you feel like you're getting the numbers back after a bit of a struggle over the past couple of weeks to get numbers ready for the games?
Yeah, we don't want to have a huge squad. I think we're trying to look at quality, and that's the thing where if we bring more players in, they have to be as good as our players or better, because otherwise you're just making up the numbers, and that's ruthless, but it's not fair on the lads coming in. So the balance is really fine in between having strength in depth, but also having selection headaches where you have to keep those players happy, you have to keep them working, and they need something at the end of the week. So at the moment we're okay, but we are probably 1 or 2 injuries away from needing backup for sure.
And on that, are you looking to still add to your squad? You said you always say that it's got to be the right player, so I imagine you're having continual conversations.
Yeah, we lost out on 1, 2 in fact, before last weekend and this weekend, and the sheer fact that they were needed to stay around their own squads, either playing or being on the bench. But they were to come and join our squad, not instead of people, and that's something I'd reiterate. Anyone who comes through the door has to fight for the place during the week in training, and that's what it's judged on now. The age-old saying of play well, keep the shirt stays the same, but the only way we can judge it otherwise is in training, and that's what we've talked about with the players this week.
Is it a fine line then ahead of this game in terms of rotation, resting, a lot of games coming up, but also putting out the strongest squad you can, because you know how important the cup run is? Yeah,
it is. I think for us, we just have to show consistency, don't we? There might be a few tweaks here and there, but consistent teams are usually successful, unless you're you're in the realms of the Man Cities and Liverpools, where rotation is key because they have so many games. For us, it's players knowing the jobs and players being used to playing week in, week out, and there might be small tweaks here and there. But as I say, for sure, this week the training's been feisty again, which is what I want. It's what we demand, and the players are thoroughly looking forward to it. It's a great game for us. It's a tough one, and that shows with the one league's difference between the teams. But we're taking it very seriously.
And I guess you're going to want to win because of the financial. You won't be able to add your squad if you get that prize money.
Yeah, that's right. It's important, isn't it? It's important for any club. The prize money goes up pretty dramatically each round, and for this round it's very important. So as long as I can keep providing the coffees for the staff, then it's important we get through these rounds. But in all seriousness, I've played in lots of FA Cup games, and the further you go into the competition, the more excitement builds, and it's that sort of momentum, and the fans get through the door and believe it. So really looking forward to it, but one game at a time in this competition for sure.
Well, thank you so much. We're very much looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Shall I get on now then?
Yeah, go for it.
Right, well, good morning, Chris.
Good morning.
Good afternoon, actually, now, isn't it? First of all, it's really nice to be here in person with you, because we've been doing it for so long on Zoom. But and great that you can tell us that everything's fine. We had a win, and everybody's absolutely buzzing about it. So I think that's great.
Well, thank you. It does make a difference. It makes a difference without a shadow of a doubt. Don't get me wrong. Some of the performances and some of the results have been very good against teams that have a high profile or are expectant to go up. So that's one thing. So we've been more than a match for some of these teams, but once those draws continue, every game becomes more and more important, doesn't it? And that was the case. So it was a vital win, there's no doubt about it, but I still think that the players handled themselves in that game and didn't panic. They stuck to a game plan. They were brave to play when they had to, and just as I say, I've got a lot of admiration for them, because I think being in that zone we were in is not pleasant. So big win.
Did you find that it was it was getting to you?
No more than normal.
No
more than normal. I mean, it's a 24/7 job, and it is. It's true. You don't really turn off, whether you've won or not. As soon as we'd won, I was thinking about this game, and that's. I think every manager's like that. Was I able to at least taste a glass of red wine on a Saturday night? Yeah, I probably was.
Good.
And that went down well.
That's good.
Yeah, it went down well. I was able to take the family out for a bite to eat and actually listen to what they were saying, instead of it not intentionally going in one ear out the other, because all you think about is the game.
Yeah.
And that's not healthy. I understand that. I think for any football manager, and there's been lots of coaches and managers that have spoken about it, that turning off is very, very important. And so that win enables that. If you can keep doing that, then wow, I'll be eating out every Saturday night. But I'm more than aware of how tough this job is, and so I'm not taking anything for granted. We get back straight on the training ground. We work hard. We look at this game as important as playing Chesterfield or Wrexham or last week's win against Solihull. The concentration levels are as high as ever.
And presumably, the stress would have just as much been on the players as it was on the manager. I mean, do you notice a much more happy environment downstairs now?
Well, I have to say that the players have been absolutely brilliant. When we turn up in the morning early on, we're planning for a fair while, and then suddenly that bass goes on that stereo, and you know that the players are enjoying themselves, getting ready for training, and that has been a consistent all the way through.
Yeah.
They are a magnificent bunch of lads, and they're so together. It is incredible. It does help when you win games, no doubt about it. But I think the players have realised that when they've played well and they haven't won, they've still played well. So you can't forget that. You just in the end need to win. and we did. So big relief.
You've talked about Taunton Town, and I mean, obviously, it is a local derby.
Yeah.
It's as local as can get, I should think.
Yeah.
In terms of derbies, you're obviously not taking them for granted because
No.
that's not the sort of thing to do in an FA Cup tie.
No.
But I was reading about Eric Ten Hag, who was saying that a lot of the players at Man United didn't know the history. They hadn't been into the museum. Well, Yeovil have got a huge history in the FA Cup, as I'm sure you all know.
Yeah.
I mean, do all of the players, are they totally all aware of
They
their
are.
history, do you think?
Yeah, I think they are. I mean, the modern player probably doesn't look into the history like we used to do because there's so many more distractions in life, isn't there? They're not as... Don't get me wrong, they're obsessed with their own game, but they're probably not obsessed as much with the history of the game. Some might be, but in the main, there's so many distractions with social media and what have you that you're thinking about different things. And a lot of entertainment's different, isn't it, nowadays?
Yeah.
But they realise what the club have done, and they realise what the club did last season. Never mind the past history.
Yeah.
So they realise that, and they also realise the financial reward in it for the football club, not perhaps for themselves being selfish, but definitely for the club. So they're well aware of how well we've done in the cup, and they're well aware of how important it is this year again.
Assuming you were lucky enough to get through to the third round, prize money wise, will you be allowed to keep the money and spend? I don't mean you personally, but keep the money and put it into the budget and get some better players in.
Well, yes, is the answer. There's no doubt about it that the money will come back to the playing squad. If it's right at that point, for any football club, and I know I'm talking about rugby now, but you can see that the management is vital of a club, because you look at Worcester, Wasps, massive clubs that are going under. So if that money at that time is used for the club and to survive on a day-to-day basis, then that's what it should be used for. If it's surplus and it could be used for players, then brilliant.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely conscious of the fact that in football we need to make sure across all of the levels that we are sustainable as a football club, and we're trying to create that model here whilst being hugely competitive. Yeah. And I know that's difficult, AD. I know it's difficult, and I know that we want to win every game, and we do go to do that. But it was a very long answer to your short question, which is, at this stage, yes, the money will come back to us, and we'll be able to use it as we see fit.
Now, we've already played Taunton in friendly. It was a draw, I think, wasn't it? You've obviously seen them. It's going to be a different game, obviously, this time in terms of the amount of effort and the amount of endeavour that's going to go into it. Have you got a few tricks up your sleeve to get the better of them?
Well, I've played a fair few games in the FA Cup, and I've felt the atmosphere of it, so I've got that experience to draw from to speak to the players about. But it's all about those players having the same approach as they have had in the last 3 home games.
Yeah.
And that is to be mindful of the opposition, but to concentrate on your own job and what you can do well as an individual, whatever position you play. And then you join that with how the teamwork plays out and what we do tactically. It's the same for Taunton, isn't it? They'll raise themselves, definitely, because there'll be a heck of a following from them, I'm sure, which will raise the players, no doubt about it. Add that, the spice of the locality. There's a lot riding on it for both clubs, definitely. But our players will be ready for that game.
One of the stands, I gather, is being closed or not open, whichever way you want to look at it. Purely from my own interest, why is that? I don't understand. I would have thought, with the potential of a large following coming up from Taunton, it seems a bit unclear as to why you're closing one of the stands, though.
Well, not sure. It'll be done for the right reasons for the football club, I'm sure. Yeah. But we, as I say, myself and the staff and the players, we're not focused on that. We're focused on the fans that come in will be giving us everything, as they always do. So will the Taunton fans. I'm sure it'll be a great atmosphere, and that's all I can concentrate on. What I would say is that our aim is to get further into competition, so that it takes care of itself, the attendance, and that's the same in the league as well. We want to do a lot of things at this club in a short space of time, and it's hard to do that. So you will take baby steps in our situation at the moment because of the competitiveness of the league. But in this competition, just enjoy the game. Just enjoy the game and try and get through it.
People always say when you've had a 5-0 stuffing, oh well, they'll raise their game because they want to get back. How easy is it as a manager if you've just been beaten 5-0? Just a game like this, from a Taunton perspective, God, that must be hard to raise them after that, isn't it?
I think whether they've been beaten 10-0, 20-0, 1-0, they'll be absolutely bang up for this game because of the size of our club. The distance between the two teams, so there's no doubt in my mind they'll be revved up. They'll be the same as they would be having won the last game. I do believe that. They were playing against a very good Ebbsfleet side, and as I say, the game before was a very tight game against Bath, another decent side in that league. So not taking it lightly, and this would be the same if I was the manager of Man United talking about a League Two National League team. You take it with the same importance, no doubt about it.
Final one from me. Any last minute injuries, or are you looking as though you've got a fairly good squad?
Well, I ran on the treadmill yesterday and I pulled my hamstring.
All right, okay.
That aside, the lads, which is the main thing, are fine. So all good to go.
Well, good luck.
Thank you.
Hopefully get through the next round.
Cheers, thank you.
Should just be Ross on the...
Yeah.
Hi there. Sorry to hear about the hamstring, Chris.
That's all right. Why that camera, Sam, on that?
You can go for whatever.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. I was over-egging it. I was trying to beat a time on the treadmill, and then suddenly it looked like I'd been shot. I narrowly, talking very narrowly, nearly went over. Yeah, it was embarrassing, but never mind. You get to a stage, don't you, where you've got to pack it in, and maybe that's something. Someone's telling me something there.
No Jose Mourinho sprint down the touchline for you this weekend?
No, although I did sprint down the touchline once this season. I got a bit carried away on the Wrexham game. I won't be doing that again.
Just a couple from me then, actually, Chris. Just looking at Taunton, obviously we've spoken about Yeovil's history in the FA Cup, but just a word on them, because this is going to be a massive opportunity for them, isn't it? Coming to play Yeovil, one of the big rivals. You spoke really nicely about the fantastic job they've done in recent years and stuff, but it's a huge occasion, isn't it?
Oh, of course it is, and we're not downplaying that at all. We know it is for the players and the staff of Taunton, who've, as I say, done a fantastic job. I know Rob very well, great guy, very passionate about his football, and he knows that his team probably overachieved to get promoted, and now we're in a really tough league, and suddenly dynamic changes, doesn't it? You get a lot of ex-pros or perhaps almost full-time clubs, and you've got to compete against that. So they've had a fantastic period, but we know it's a big game, but we've just got to concentrate on ourselves and be consistent with that message, and that's what we've tried to do in the league, and we'll do the same Saturday.
And I presume obviously you're massively confident of getting the result. Obviously you are favourites going into the game. Do you have any predictions? Have you spoken to the team about what you expect from them on the weekend?
I wouldn't be as foolish as to predict anything in football. All I would say is that my team will be prepared. They are ready. They want to do well as footballers, whether it be the league or the cup or any cup we're in. And we're giving the opposition the respect they deserve. But as I say, our players are determined to do well this season. And Saturday we've got to have high levels of concentration, and we've got to take our chances when we get them, and we've got to be resilient and robust, which we have been in the main. So it's one that we're not taking lightly, but got to look forward to it. And for the fans, as I say, it's a great game for the fans too.